You guys are good.
The meeting will come to order. Are there any nominations for Chair Pro Tem of today's Rules Committee meeting?
I nominate Tara Coleman.
I second.
Okay, we will call it to a vote. Commissioner Van Deer,
Aye.
Commissioner Zaid,
Aye.
and I, Tara Coleman, vote aye. Having been elected by majority vote, I will preside over today's meeting. Our first item on the agenda is the roll call. Please note for the minutes that members of the Rules Committee, Commissioners Pete Van Leer, Sharina Zaid, and Tara Coleman are present today. We do have a quorum. This meeting of the Cleveland Community Police Commission is a lawful meeting. Under section 605.04 of the codified ordinances, no person with purpose to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting shall do any act which obstructs or interferes with the due conduct of such meeting. Members of the public are invited to speak in accordance with the public comment rules. Disruptions, including but not limited to speaking out of turn and or making loud utterances that interferes with the due conduct of this lawful meeting, may constitute a misdemeanor and a violation of section 605.04. If this meeting is disrupted, I will call for a recess and the room will be cleared. Persons who violate the city ordinances and commit misdemeanors may be subject to prosecution. When this body is able to return from recess, then in compliance with the Ohio Open Meetings Act and section 101.021 of the codified ordinances, the meeting will be open to the public. And I don't do it.
What?
I don't know. So I've read what I need to. Okay, thank you. That covers our meeting decorum. The agenda has been distributed. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda? If there are no objections, the agenda will be adopted as presented. Okay, hearing no objections, the agenda is adopted. We'll proceed to the next item on our agenda, which is the first public comment. And Jocelyn, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we will move to the next item on our agenda, which is the committee report. I will now give the Rules Committee report. So as previewed at our last full commission meeting, I have taken it to collect prior drafts of the evidentiary hearings manual. I was given 2 drafts. My understanding is, or not my understanding, but the drafts I were given, one has DOJ and monitoring team comments. And the second draft is a draft that was started by Attorney Belat and then taken over by Attorney Alex Nordine to implement some of those comments and make revisions. I then took those 2 drafts and combined them to the best that I could and revised that significantly in an aim to come to a new and current working draft that we can push forward from this committee, kind of without, I guess, any of all the history and baggage, which I've heard various stories about the history or why this got held up, and I today am not certain of why it has been held up, but honestly, it doesn't matter because what we've done here is we've taken all the prior work and we've made it into the most solid draft to date that we can in order to move forward. Also, as a part of this process, I met with members of the Accountability Committee and Alex Nordine to just collaborate on this process of combining the 2 drafts. So what you have before you today is a working draft of this hearings procedure. And as discussed at the at the full commission, it is not our intent today to pass this out of committee. The goal of today's meeting is to have discussion among this committee about who are the stakeholders we want to weigh in on this draft. What are the next steps we want to edit, review, to get to the point where we can put this before the full commission. And so that's what I hope to bring out of today's meeting. That concludes my report for the Rules Committee. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing no questions, I will move to the next item on our agenda, which is discussion. So I would like to take this time, open it up to the committee, and let's talk about what we want the next steps to be. And so this draft this has been circulated in hard copy here today publicly. This was only given to Commissioner Zaid and Pete Van Leer today around 4:00. So this is not something that the broader commission has seen yet. We're all getting it today. And again, this is a working draft presentable for public comment, for stakeholder comment, for revision and feedback. It is not final. And I do anticipate that once the members of this committee do get a chance to review in depth, that there will be comments and revisions. So with that, I would just like to open it, or I guess I could talk through kind of my proposed thinking on who we would want to weigh in, and then hopefully we can come to a process and how we're going to do all that. So this list that I'm going to give you came out of the collaboration meeting we had with the accountability team. And the stakeholders, or kind of key stakeholders, we were thinking we should get this hearings manual in front of are, an individual, at least an individual from CDP. We also thought union input would probably be a good idea. Someone from internal affairs potentially. Someone from CPRB. We also discussed once this evidentiary hearing procedure is in its final form, that we may want to consider having an independent legal counsel do a review to confirm the validity. So not necessarily to revise it, but once we've done our revisions, to confirm that the outcomes of the procedure would hold up in court, essentially. And those were all just thoughts that I'll throw out there that I think are a good list of stakeholders that I would also agree with. And then I would also say, it is my intent, assuming if I become chair of this committee, that I would always have 2 chances for public comment at each rules committee. And so that's also going to be the chance where we can get direct community feedback as the community gets a chance to digest and dive into this, and then get 2 chances at each meeting to give input as well. So I will be quiet.
No, you just basically addressed the concern I had. It's like, making sure that the community gets a chance to include their feedback. And so will this draft will this be posted on our website so that community members can read over it?
So yeah, that's what I would like to discuss today. If we want to do that, yes, we'll get Jocelyn the copy to post on the website for everyone. Also too, I guess another step of this is obviously to disseminate this to the broader commission, all of the commissioners. So that's what I would envision for sure, is posting to CPC website and distribution to all of the commissioners as a very obvious first step. And then this committee taking it upon ourselves to also do an in-depth review.
And I was thinking maybe Jocelyn, maybe once it's posted publicly, we can maybe post some social media calls to action for people to kind of give their feedback, their input. Anybody who's like interested, for them to come to the meeting, maybe. And if they're extremely interested, maybe possibly joining like a work group or something, just so everyone can have the opportunity to be included if they so desire.
And Commissioner Zaid, what's the process for getting that social media call out? Like, what do we need to do as a committee to make sure that happens?
Just having a discussion with Jocelyn.
Okay.
So, I just wanted, I'm looking back at old emails, I hadn't really focused on this, but I'm putting together a list of people who have looked at it. So just to, it's like, I think it's great, everything you're saying is great, but it has gotten a lot of feedback and input in the past. And I could, if I had a little bit more time to look through my notes, I would have been able to say more about that, but I think I don't disagree with anything you're talking about.
Pete, I had those same thoughts, and I wasn't for sure who were the folks that worked with Martin Viet on that draft that was a little more, kind of the finished product that we wanted to send to the DOJ. So if we could get that, figure out that list of folks.
Yeah, so the process was that we passed, I think, there was the evidentiary hearing manual, but we passed something by the full commission, and then there was a meeting with, that was held between our attorney at the time with some stakeholders from the city, and some changes were made, and in the meantime, my memory is not perfect, because this was like last summer, and there's a lot going on with other stuff at the commission. But there was some feedback, and we brought it back to the commission at the next meeting, and then there were questions about how the meeting was held and what have you, even though it didn't violate any Open Meetings Act or anything. But in that time, we tried to pass the revised version, the updated version. It did not pass. And so what was sent to the DOJ and the monitoring team for comment was the first version that was passed. So there was work done on the second version, and then we got the comment. So it's been a complicated process. And I think things slowed down, got very contentious. And then of course the last few months there's a period where we didn't have a commission. So that's a little bit of the history, and I'm just looking through my list. I'm sure we could find out. We could talk to Martin about who was in that meeting, just for.
Okay.
Because my only concern is that we're repeating some of the work, but I think there's no way around that at this point.
Okay,
It's like that was a long time ago, and it's new commissioners, and we need to have a process that is clear and that we can talk about with real knowledge.
And I can comment some to that. So, I will say the draft that I was given that I can see the DOJ comments on and the monitoring team comments on, that draft was more so written almost as an educational piece that reiterated and explained the CPC's authority that's in the charter, and that's in the consent decree. And to me, the evidentiary hearings manual, it needs to be the procedure for how we're actually going to conduct the hearing. So that needed significant revision in my opinion. And I did meet with people from the accountability team. I've met often with Alex in his role as an attorney, and kind of all agreed with that on the same page. Now, I will say, to the extent that we want to educate the community, and officers and people who are going to be involved in hearings, on our authorities, on, how complaints get to the commission, I would suggest if we consider putting together like a know your rights type of document for the community, or what comes to mind to me is how we have that document that is the Citizen's Guide to the Consent Decree, right? That's the type of document that should kind of educate and explain. This current working draft is procedure. So all of that has been strict, and I think it was very necessary. So I'll say, and I'm just saying this to respond to Commissioner Pete Van Leer, I don't think we're going to be repeating too much work because it did significantly need revised, if that makes sense.
And it is like refreshing to hear you say that, you considered all the work that was done in the past, but due to all the issues, just kind of made it new and made it fresh.
And it needs to be, and I mean, the drafts were pretty unworkable. Yeah. Okay, so then just to wrap up, I guess the stakeholders kind of that I put out And then also, we wanna work with Jocelyn to put out a social media call. Get it posted to the website, and then, Commissioner Van Leer, you are going to look up to see if you can find some of the past people that looked, and maybe we reach out to them and get their input.
Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I definitely, I could pull together a list of people who responded, and we can definitely
Okay.
reach out to them. And many of them are very involved in different ways in the commission, former commissioners and active community members, so yeah.
Okay. And then is there any other kind of, with respect to this working draft, any next steps or any other ideas we want to put in place now to make sure this moves forward?
Do you think any type of timeline should be set?
I'm open to that, yeah. Yeah, let's do it. What are you thinking?
This is like, I mean, honestly, this is kind of more so your big push, so I don't wanna place any time restrictions that,
No, I will take all the help I can get.
okay.
So, I would say, so some of this is low hanging fruit, like the social media, getting it posted, all of that. Let's just commit, we can knock that out this week.
Okay,
Let's do, so here, a timeline, I would say by this Friday, we will have to Jocelyn what we want on social media. By this Friday, we will have, and I'm gonna be relying on the minutes heavily. By this Friday, we will have, this posted to the website for the public. By this Friday, we will have the list of kind of past people that we wanna consider giving it to.
Mhm.
And what's some other low hanging fruit for this week?
maybe just start making the calls to these stakeholders
Yeah.
to see what their availability is.
Start, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, so by this Friday, let's have a game plan for a stakeholder reach out
Okay.
by this Friday. Okay. Then moving from there, I think timeline wise, if we could get this before the full commission, obviously not at this meeting that's in a couple weeks,
Mhm.
but at the following full commission meeting, like if we could be to the point
Where it's like a
people can
yeah.
pass something, I think that might be a overzealous timeline, but I think,
We can do it.
yeah,
I
and I
think we
think
can
the
do it.
community wants it, I think we
Yeah.
want it, and we just push forward, and
Could you say the timeline again?
I'm thinking, so
The final part.
if we could get all of this stakeholder input and get a draft to the full commission by meeting after next.
Hmm.
And I don't know when that would be, so
The last,
we're in, June, right?
yeah.
So by the July meeting, like, if we could present for it to be voted on by the July meeting, I think that would be,
And would you be
Appreciate it.
open to like maybe presenting it to the commission like formally, like, okay, this is our final draft, maybe we read through it, or maybe no, because I guess we'll read through it in the rules.
well, the commissioners will be
Yeah.
reading through it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's another Friday deadline. Another Friday deadline is to make sure this draft gets to all of the current
Mhm.
commissioners
Mhm.
and an urge for them to review this.
Right.
And then they can be, and a call for them to give us feedback.
To you feedback. It shouldn't be.
Okay, that's fine, okay, and to give me, that's fine, I can.
I'm sorry, how
Take the
often are the, is there a regular date for the rules meetings on
Rules is every second Tuesday.
second Tuesday? Okay, so should we try to have most of the feedback in by that second Tuesday,
Oh, that's a good point, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
in July?
So tell the commissioners by this Friday, push out, the deadline will be the next Tuesday meeting, so the July Tuesday, right?
Might want to make the deadline a little bit ahead of that so that we have
Oh,
time
yeah,
to
we
look
have
at
To
it.
time.
implement.
So maybe the
okay,
two-
yeah,
the
let me
first
look at my
Tuesday?
calendar.
Maybe if they have it back by the first Tuesday, we can have a week to review it for
Yeah.
the second Tuesday.
Oh, I see. So make the deadline for feedback the first Tuesday of July, is that what we're saying? That would be July 1st. And should that be the deadline for just commissioners or everyone? Because we are going to be wanting community feedback and,
I would just say commissioners,
Okay.
and then as things come in, as we're still working, if you see something that's like, oh my gosh, this should be.
yeah, I agree with that, because we don't want to cut, yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so we'll make the deadline for commissioners to send in their feedback to me, July 1st. And then, that'll give us some time to digest before our next rules meeting, which should be July 8th, because that looks like the second Tuesday to me. Okay, and then the full commission meeting is that July 22nd? No, that's July 23rd. It's the, hold on, no, 1, 2, 3, 4th Wednesday is July 23rd. Okay. I think this is doable. It is a tight timeline, but I think we should keep the momentum and just, let's do it.
And honestly, I think the stakeholders that we work with are ready for it. I think,
Okay.
you know, the city is ready for it, the residents are ready for it. I think we can do this. We've already, like, we've had talks with CPRB about meeting on a regular basis. So I think, they understand how important this is and how their input, so we can have some type of continuity in the whole oversight and discipline process, how important that is. So I know they'll probably be eager to weigh in on what they think. So I think it could work.
Okay, well, that was productive. We have a timeline and a game plan with action steps. So anything else then on next steps?
No, just thank you guys so much for all of the work that you've put into this. Alex, Pete, Sarah, thank you so much. I really appreciate this and I'm very impressed by the work you guys have done.
Oh, and before we move on, I did want to make one statement to the community giving feedback. So kind of as I was kind of researching and looking through this, where I see the community's role, like civilians, where I see their role is holding CPC accountable. And so during your review, I would pay close attention to timing. I think that's where we're going to need community feedback, is on just the timing of certain things, because that's how the community essentially can check us and hold us accountable, which is kind of what I see their role as being. So I just wanted to put that out there to any interested community members who will be reviewing it. That's what I would pay close attention to. And that's all.
Right. And I don't know how helpful this is, and I know Jocelyn's probably already on it, but maybe make sure that there's like also email blasts that people who've attended our meetings, who signed up for the newsletter, to let them know that they can go, send Tara their feedback, so they can feel like they've had the opportunity to be included.
Okay. All right, so if there's nothing else for discussion, we will move to the next item on the agenda, which is new business. Let's see. So for new business, are there any nominations for chair of the Rules Committee?
I nominate Tara Coleman.
I second.
Okay, we will call that to a vote. Commissioner Pete Van Leer.
Aye.
Commissioner Zaid.
Aye.
And Commissioner Tara Coleman, I will vote aye. So by unanimous vote, I will serve as chair of the Rules Committee. So that will now take us to our last item on the agenda, which is public comment number 2. And I did not get, okay, so if there's no public comment, is there any further business? Okay, since there is no further business, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. That was very efficient.
Yeah, per Robert's Rules of Order, we don't actually have to vote on that. There's no further business. Okay. All right, well, thank you, everybody.
I'm glad to see you.